Good morning, 1111 people, and good morning to you people online. Welcome to 1111 downtown in Fort Worth, and welcome to you all here. I see a few visitors with us this morning. We are a Labor Day crowd today, so I'm assuming a number of you are also online watching today from wherever you're vacationing over the weekend. I'm so glad that you all are here, and this morning is kind of a special Sunday, so we're going to do things a little bit differently, but I want to encourage you, if you did not do this, because we've changed the order up a little bit, when we start singing, feel free to move around. There's on the back table, as well as on these two music stands, there are scan codes. Scan it for your bulletin this morning for the program. You'll figure out what order we're going in, or just live with the mystery. And so sort of just trust us. The big question today is, do we trust the universe or not? So that's a good test. Already, I've been tested at least 5 times this morning just before I even woke up. So it's a wonderful day to practice that as well. So register your attendance here in person if you're here, online if you're watching online. There's opportunities for giving as well to continue this ministry here and to support the ministry at First United Methodist Church, of which we are a part, a unique part, I might add. And then I'll make a couple of quick announcements. First of all, if you go to the back table, our good friend who deserves a big hand, Avenel Harris. Yes, Avenel, who has been tirelessly bringing coffee to us for the last, 6 months now? I mean, for some time. And so she's got a sign-up sheet in the back for other folks to join in that process and to take part in that. It's a lot of fun. You get to come here just a little bit early, set it up, and then have accidents that happen. Another great test of do I trust the universe? The spout was open as she was pouring in all of the coffee and stuff. And so it went all over the floor. Because the universe was saying, wake up. Life doesn't always go the way you plan. Anyway, but join her and be a part of that. There's other sign-up stuff back there. Yes, ma'am. Set up and greeters. You can also scan. There's a scan code on the bulletin. If you get online, and at the bottom of the bulletin, there's a scan code there. There's also a sign-up back here. We would love to have more folks. Marty Rush, who is one of our main greeters here almost every Sunday, called or emailed me this morning at 5:30 and said, I won't be here because I'll be sick. He is sick. And so he's not here. So we would love to have some of you other smiling faces sign up and be a part of that as well during the week, during the months ahead. All right, so that's happening. If you are interested in, maybe you're in that place where you've been exploring your understanding of what Christianity is, your understanding of faith, what it means to even have any of these kinds of ideas that we've had growing up. And some of us have been involved in these classes with myself and with my wife, Linda McDermott, also a minister on staff here. Living the Questions, and it's going to start in a couple of weeks. It'll be offered on Sunday morning at 9:30. It'll be offered on Thursday morning at 9:30. And it'll be over in the main building, but you can go online and find out information about it. We've got about 40 or 50 people signed up right now. And there's always amazing discussion, and the material is really pushes us, kind of really pushes you to rethink and understand in new ways what you've really been sort of taken for granted or decided you just don't go there anymore. It's just bunk. You don't go there anymore. So it's a great way to sort of explore more deeply what this all is, as we do in here. I would say, to put it lightly, deconstruction in here is a past tense term. We're kind of trying to figure out how do we make sense of all the pieces, right? And that's kind of why we are pieces as well. Anyway, I'm jumping way ahead of myself. This morning, I want to ask that fundamental question, and the band's going to start off, people, with a crazy song, because we're kind of in crazy times. I warned some of folks who were new to this service. I even emailed them and said, you might want to come in at 11:25. We're going to let Ozzy Osbourne introduce us to the idea of our theme. So the question is our universe fundamentally trustworthy, or is it basically just random and doesn't care one bit one way or the other, and it's violent and it's angry and kind of like we see reality around us? Or is it in fact kind and possibly redemptive? And who's in charge of that? Us or God? Or are they both the same question? There you go, something to think about.
It's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate. Going off the rails on a crazy train. Going off the rails on a crazy train. Let's go. I've listened to preachers, I've listened to fools, I've listened to dropouts who make their own rules. We're present conditioned to pull in control. The media sells it, and you live the role. Going off the rails on a crazy train. Going off the rails on a crazy train. I know that things are going around me. You've got to listen to my words, yeah. As of the Cold War, it's what we become. Inheriting troubles, I'm mentally numb. Crazy, I just cannot bear. I'm living with something, it just isn't there. Going off the rails on a crazy train. Going off the rails on a crazy train. Chris Brown on that burning electric guitar solo right there.
Did anybody catch Chris Brown's on their phone? Did anybody do that? Did anybody record? Really? You're going to have to do that song again. Literally, like, why weren't Jesus says always film what's going on. You know, we always got to pass it on to other folks. Don't know what they're missing in here. So good to have you, Chris, with us. Mike Brown's son, you guys remember Mike Brown, and so good to have him. And I know Mike's wife is watching. Hi, Janet. Good to have you with us online. I know you're proud of your boy. So I'm going to invite Debbie up here because I forgot the order of service, and Debbie, you were supposed to invite us to welcome ourselves into this space. Yeah. I thought I asked you to do that. I don't know. Okay.
11:11. We're very spontaneous. And this gives me an opportunity to plug Children's Academy needs volunteers.
Yep.
So anybody else in here doing Children's Academy? We have several people in 11:11, but I don't see them here.
Yeah, they're not here
But
this morning.
if you want more information, just ask me about it. So, all right, here, welcome everyone. So here we go. Come,
whoever you are, wanderer,
worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come yet again.
Thank you, Debbie. That was perfect. We'd like for y'all to stand right now and sing Crazy Train with us again, please. If you'll turn in your hymnals. And this is a great time to bring your offering to the table as well. Here we go.
I'm going to lead this one, and you guys can echo. Oh, healing river.
Oh, healing river,
Send down your water.
send down your water,
Send down your water
send down your water
upon this land.
upon this land.
Oh, healing river.
Oh, healing river,
Send down your water.
send down your water
And wash the blood
and wash the blood
from off of the sand.
from up of the sand.
This land is parched.
This land is parched,
This land is burning.
this land is burning.
No seed is growing.
No seed is growing
In the barren ground.
barren ground.
Oh, healing river.
Oh, healing river,
Send down your water.
send down your water.
Oh, healing river.
Oh, healing river.
Send your waters down.
Guitar. One more verse together. Here we go.
Let the seed of freedom
Let the seed of freedom
awake and flourish.
awake and flourish.
Let the deep roots nourish.
Let the deep roots nourish.
Let the tall stalks rise.
Tall stalks rise.
Oh, healing river.
Oh, healing river,
Send down your water.
send down your water.
Oh, healing river.
Oh, healing river,
From out of the sky.
out of the sky.
From out of the sky.
Out of the sky.
From out of the sky.
Out of the sky. Yeah, nice work.
Right on, people. Would y'all take a second now and go around the room and offer one another a sign of peace, please?
invite y'all to take your seat. You have a chance to visit a little bit more in a little while.
Excuse me, sir, what did you say? You shout so loud it's hard to tell. You say that I must change my ways, or I am surely bound to hell. Well, I know you'd dare me if you could, but my friend, that's simply not your call. If God is great and God is good, why is your heaven so small? You say you know, you say you've read that holy Bible upon your shelf. Do you recall when Jesus said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged yourself"? I know you'd dare me if you could, my friend, that's simply not your call. If God is great and God is good, why is your heaven so small? Your face that shake, your eyes that burn. What makes you do these things you do? I would not be surprised to learn somewhere someone excluded you. My friend, imagine if you would a love much brighter than our soul. If God is great and God is good, why is your heaven so small?
So, keeping in true form with the way this day has gone already this morning, I forgot to put in my contacts. So I got here and it was like, I can't read my own stuff. I can't read anything. So luckily, see, luckily the universe had God, the universe, life. It had me in its sight because my glasses were still lying in my car on the floor. So at least I can see. So we're going to read from something that's a little different, trying to kind of think beyond our typical familiarity and boundaries and such that we might have grown up with in our various traditions. And I'm going to read from Psalms 23, which y'all have heard me talk about before, because typically we hear this during a funeral, or we hear this during a difficult time, and we kind of think of it in terms of God as there on our side, kind of helping us out or whatever, protecting us. I'm taking a little bit of a different angle, as you understand, because as I think about it, it's not God prepares a table in my presence of my enemies so I can go like, ha-ha, I've got food, you guys, it doesn't matter what you do, I'm still taken care of. No, it's really more like there's delight in the midst of our troubles. There is delight, there's possibility, there's redemptive possibilities in every moment of our lives, regardless of where we find ourselves. That's what I think it says. So I'm going to read from a little tradition, a book called Opening to You, a Zen-inspired translation of the Psalms by Norman Fisher, who was a former Christian minister, then became Zen monk, and now is kind of a Zen monk Christian writer and a retreat guide. Opening to You, a Zen-inspired translation of Psalm 23, which I have, of course, adapted. So just see if we all pretty much know the old King James Version, or if we don't, we're somewhat familiar because we've been to a funeral, so I'm just going to assume that. But here we go. Love is my guide. I am content. Love leads me to rest in the sweet grasses, to lie down by still waters, and I am refreshed. Love guides me along the right path, the path that unwinds in the pattern of your holy name. And even if I find myself in the shadow of death, I am filled with a fearlessness for life, for I am grounded in love, comforted by love's prodding and invitation, revealing every step along this path. Love prepares a feast for me, set in the midst of my own fear and adversity. My heart is opened in this sacred space. My life is full with delight, and goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life. And in the long days beyond, as in this moment, I live always in the house of love. And then here's from Jalaluddin Rumi. We've often read Rumi. If you saw the first opening welcome, that's a Rumi poem that we read every Sunday morning. This is how a human being can change. This is how a human being can change. There's a worm addicted to eating grape leaves. Suddenly she wakes up, call it grace, whatever. Something awakens her, and she's no longer a worm. She's the entire vineyard. And the orchard, too, the fruit, the trunks, a growing wisdom and joy that no longer need to devour. So, Ed, throw that, there you go. So this week, this series that I'm doing is called, This Is How, Big Mind Help for Small-Minded Times. Now, Ed used this because I did this message. I actually did this series, I guess almost 4 years or so ago. How many of you remember that? Yeah. Brad and I were talking, and Brad was like, yeah, I don't think they're going to remember that 4 years ago. It's like, oh, man, come on. My messages are so powerful. They've got them memorized. Anyway, so I figured because of what's going on right now and because of experiences I had at the beginning of this week and last week, I decided, no, we need to have this again. We need to think about this. I need to think about this again because, as you know, everything I'm doing in here is not for you. It's for me, and if it helps you, boy, I'm really glad. You know, I always say the preachers are preaching to themselves, basically. You know, teachers are teaching to themselves. We're all waiting for the student to appear to teach us. There you go. Big brain, small mind. I love this. This is kind of the way our country feels right now, the way reality feels. So I had this experience this last week, and I want to start off with telling you a little bit of a story about somebody I heard, a woman named Tara Brock, or Tara Brock, I think it's Brock, and if some of you know Tara Brock, you've heard her, listened to her stuff. She's a teacher, has a lot of interesting stories and interesting teaching online. She told this story about one of her friends who was a professor, and he had a son. When his son was 12 years old, he was trying to connect with him. And it was some years back, but it was just when sort of texting and cell phone usage had really begun flourishing, especially for younger individuals, the younger generation. For him, he was just trying to catch up and connect with his son who was on the phone all the time. But he was finding it difficult, so he decided, I'm going to read up a little bit and find out how to text with him, how to communicate that way. His son was too busy kind of talking face-to-face, he'd connect with him on the phone. And so he learned some of the initial kind of abbreviations. And his son started texting him and then would just randomly start adding this thing on the end, LOL. Well, immediately her friend, the professor, he knew exactly what that meant. Of course, it means lots of love. And so he started using it. And every time he would respond to his son, he'd end it with LOL, lots of love. And he started using it all the time. He would use it with some of his friends. When his brother was going through a particularly hard time, he'd lost his job and he was struggling with stuff. He said, Dad, this has got to be terrible, LOL. When a friend of his was actually going through a serious illness and struggling, he ended it with, I hope you get better, LOL. And he was doing that to everything. He was putting that LOL because he thought, how wonderful. I'm just saying lots of love. Everywhere I go, lots of love, lots of love. And then one day, after about, I don't know, several months of this kind of thing, he finally was talking to his son one day when he finally started using it with his son. And then his son talked to him on the phone and said, Dad, I don't, it called him at his office, says, I don't think you know what that means. It means laugh out loud. And he said, oh my God. And he thought about all those places over the last several months that he basically looked at people in their sorrow, their pain, their horror, and gone, laugh out loud. So he had to go back and retrace everything he was doing. The reason why I like that story is because it literally reminded me of how difficult it is to communicate. Because we enter every single moment of our communication from a place of assumption. Even when we have the best intentions, we enter with a sense of assumption. And if it's not the assumptions right off, then it's our basic neurobiology, which is saying, I'm a little scared, I'm not sure how you feel, what are you thinking, do you think like I think? I mean, and so we're even a little afraid to test the waters sometimes. So I decided, because I don't know, I've been thinking about this for some time, about engaging us more and more online, because that's where so many people are, is online right now and communicating, and because that's the way it was with COVID. And we picked up a lot of people online as well. But if I were to ask you, and I won't because it would be embarrassing, and then I would feel sad and be depressed afterwards, I would ask you how many of you check on a regular basis the 1111 Facebook page. Right? Or how many of you have said you like it, and so you get all the posts that I post there, and I'm not going to do that because you're looking at me like deer in headlights. And so some of you are watching online through the Facebook page, which is awesome because you can talk to each other and communicate and such, so you can watch us there as well as at the church's website. But I decided to post something because I was feeling all this vitriolic tension, not just in the country, but especially in the Methodist Church right now, right? Because we're dealing with the LGBTQ inclusiveness, which First United Methodist Church is definitely there. We've been there for years and years and years. And so it's this kind of tension that the church has been boiling over for the last 15, 20 years. It's the latest thing of what can we be scared about? And then what can we get divided and divisive about because we're scared about it? And so rather than dealing with fear and rather dealing with redemptive possibilities and that kind of thing, we just deal with it with scared and we retreat with our fear, and then we find people who think like us because now we know we're right? And when I'm saying that, you know I'm talking about you. Because you're going, yeah, those right-wing people, they're terrible, or whatever. And no, I'm saying we all do that. We all do that, no matter what. We retreat to the left, going like, where are all our friends? We'll rally together too. So I thought maybe I could hit that neutral spot that says, there's an evolutionary possibility here, people. We could evolve into a greater, more open-minded, more connected, more didactic and dialectic kind of reality that looks for a different way. Like Rumi's out beyond the ideas of right and wrong. There's a field where even each other doesn't make any sense, right? We could get there. So I posted this. Is it up there? Let's see. I posted this picture. Some of y'all seen the latest Webb telescope pictures that are amazing, that just boggle the mind. And I thought, wow, I just love this. And then it reminded me of a Richard Feynman, the late physicist, who was such a genius teacher and such an amazing researcher and such. And so he wrote this: it doesn't seem to me that this fantastically marvelous universe, this tremendous range of time and space and different kinds of animals and all the different planets and all the atoms with all their motions and all this complicated thing can merely be a stage so that God can watch human beings struggle for good and evil, which is the view that religion seems to have. The stage is too big for this little drama. Right? Seems neutral enough. So I boosted it. Y'all know what that means? I didn't either. Except I knew that's what you do to try to reach other people. What I didn't know is that you should also go into the ad section if you're the administrator so you could find out just who this was going to get boosted to. And so what I checked off, because it went to the default, was you want comments. You want to engage with comments. And I thought, well, okay. That night, after I'd posted it, that night I got a call from our social media person who oversees all the social media and is always watching, Facebook and stuff. She said, Tom, have you looked at your Facebook page lately? I said, well, no, I just posted it this afternoon. Well, you might want to check it out. People, there were like 75 comments already on there, and every one of them hateful. Every one of them defensive. Every one of them a declaration of their faith statement as contrasted with whatever I was trying to say, apparently. And then even some that were saying, like, I think the church is, the whole institution of the church has just brought the whole world down, and it's just crushing. I mean, there were things that people were saying that I was going like, well, yeah, I agree with that, but why are you so angry with me? You know, I mean, it's like there was such one-sided kind of anger. And then, of course, what happens then is that immediately those people from wherever they are, apparently all over the world, I thought I'd put down within a 10-mile radius. I was getting responses from Alabama, from Oregon, from England, from Australia, and then we're arguing with each other going like, well, you're just too narrow-minded. Well, you're just too bigoted. How would you... And then they just got into back and forth. And finally, they were telling each other to go to hell. On the 1111 page. And Linda and I were reading these, and she was going, I don't even know what they're talking about. You know, there was one that was like, well, if you were in the seventh dimension of the fifth realm, you would have discovered that all of this had already happened once before. And it was like, what? And so there I was going like, hide, 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 hide. I was just kind of hiding all these things because it just felt so angry. And then I started looking at some of them, and I said, okay, wait a minute, Tom. I'm going to leave this one. Yeah, it's angry, but I'm going to leave this one. We're just going to hold back on just out and out, you know, blatant hatred. We'll hide that stuff. But for now, I'm just going to leave even the things that are defensive, that are defiant, that are more insistent rather than inquiring. We've talked about that as part of our RISE practice, you know, that rather than insisting, or being intransigent, we inquire. So I left some of those there. And then I did something that I don't normally do, but I've started a practice of. Wherever there was a really angry statement that I still left, I went and looked that person up. And then I looked at them and I thought, oh, you are kind of scary looking. But I didn't stop there. I started looking at what kind of music they like. I started looking at what they post. And I disagreed with a lot of what they were posting, but then all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, we've done that song in 1111. And then I saw another song, and I told Brad, I said, we're going to do that song in 1111. So I posted back, I commented back to him, and I said, yeah, I don't know if you've ever checked out our 1111 site. You might check it out just to see who we are, and then maybe you'd have a different kind of response. And then I said, and by the way, thank you for posting that song by this band, because I think we'll probably use it within the next few weeks. So he posted back, and little by little, the conversation became more conciliatory. We don't agree with each other on a lot of things, but we found other things we were talking about. I even left it up there on the Facebook page. You can go look at it. It also gets a little weird. And then I thought, I bet we have 11 people that think like that too. We have a pretty wide open acceptance in here. And that's kind of our primary value. That's kind of our primary value is compassion and curiosity. So it was interesting. Then I posted to my page, you know, with my friends. And it was lovely. 1,000 likes. 125 shares. And I thought, you people are ignorant. No, I didn't really. No. No. But, you know, the Zen in me goes like, let that go too. You know, because again, why do I want to get attached to just the people who like me? Why don't I learn how to get attached to the people who don't see the connective tissue that connects all of us? The ground of our being that they can't see. And that's really what this series is going to be about. Well, let's see this next slide. Oh, yeah, I did get a really fun post. I got a post from one of the friends that liked it. She was she was eating over at the Paris Cafe. You know, y'all know Paris Cafe here in town. She was looking at the wallpaper. She said, oh my gosh, it looks like that Webb telescope picture. I said, I can see that. All right, you don't see that? That's okay. I can see it. And then I sent her back that wonderful Blake quote about heaven in a flower and eternity in the palm of your hand. It's like it's all what you're looking for. It's all how you look. It's all what you're open to seeing. It's beautiful. I loved it. Now I'm going to have to look for it next time. Anyway, let's see the next one. It's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Seems like we're not quite there yet, people. A lot of us are. It seems like a lot of us aren't. Let's go to the next one. So this is what Einstein said, and where I want to sort of wrap up our thinking here for this morning. It doesn't seem to me that this... Oh, wait a minute. Is that the right... Okay, I'm skipping down here. Sorry. A human being is part of a whole, the universe. He experiences himself as something separated from the rest. It's a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness, a kind of prison for us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circles of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. So let's see this next picture. John O'Donohue, the wonderful Celtic Christian and Celtic poet, who struggled with his own denomination because of his sexual orientation, and yet found a place of freedom to speak in the midst of that conflict, in the midst of that tension. And Celtic spirituality was a lot of that vehicle for him because it connected him to the ground, it connected him to life. Right? Celtic spirituality is so much about being connected to life and to the mystery and to the wonder that's there, and to take our lesson and our cue from everything. And so John O'Donohue wrote that he thought the next level of our human evolution, because we've been around here for, 40 to 50,000 years as a species, and even maybe 10,000 as a social species of sorts. He argued that the next place of our evolution would be this place where we learn to refine our sense of belonging, to be more about our deepest connection to a kinship with all of life. That our next level, our next plane of evolution might be this place of a higher consciousness that looks for the connectedness between us. And this is our struggle. It doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum of conservative, progressive, liberal, inclusive, whatever. It's really our challenge to see that it's neither. That this other way of being, that all of the mystics have always spoken about, all the contemplatives have always sort of been that counter-narrative, that counterintuitive. Let's move away from our biology. If I'm afraid, then I probably should go think about this and take a look at this. If this creates some tension in me, then maybe I need to kind of explore this more. If I'm looking for people who think like me, maybe I ought to find out what I'm afraid of. Maybe that's the next level for my maturity, for my growth, for my evolution. And so he said this is literally where he would see humanity evolving to. What Einstein, I think, is also speaking about is being able to see past that. Richard Rohr said, next quote here, this is the one I posted on Facebook that got so many likes. Thought, this is sweet. Richard Rohr said, every time we choose love, grace, and humility over our habituated brain reactions, we expand our realm for freedom. When I looked at the ad notes in there, I didn't choose that one either, but for some reason Facebook just decided to choose similar likes and engagement. So it literally went to everybody who likes Richard Rohr and then everybody who thinks like that. So in a sense, that was nice and that was sweet, and it was a nice little relief from the other side of the picture. But in reality, it really wasn't doing a whole lot to change the way we think about the world. So I love that, and I know we love that, and yet at the same time, what I'm asking us to do, and I posted this in a progressive, radical theological group because I said, I'm exhausted. I am so tired of being out there trying to say there's another way, there's a way that's beyond right and wrong, there's a way that engages even where there's vitriolic attitude and behavior that says, wait a minute, there's got to be something else here we're not seeing because I know you're part of the ground of our being that I'm a part of. I think I believe that. So how can I help us find this together, even in the most angry of encounters? Well, my wife Linda the other day was at one of those big box stores. She was standing in line. A guy behind her turned around. There was outdoor kind of stuff, so there was gardening and that kind of thing. Guy in front of her turned around, looked behind him, saw Linda. Said, well, you know, the reason why we have to go inside now to get these big bags of potted soil and fertilizer and stuff, because, you know, Mexicans keep stealing them. Yeah, said that. Just said it right out. And Linda's first response was probably, I don't know what you would do. You might go like, well, now, come on, that's a pretty racist thing to say. You might say that. He might look back and go, yeah, I'm a racist, okay? Yeah, all right. And so she really had to catch herself for a second. That's part of that rise practice we talk about in here. You know, don't react, reflect. Don't respond, just sit back, reflect, take a breath, reflect on it. She said, I don't know that I think that. And she kind of got him into a conversation. Why would you think that? He kind of tried to explain it again with basically sort of some limited arguments that were very much rooted in kind of a sociology he probably grew up with. It sounded like he was quoting basically his father, maybe, you know, or maybe his friends, who knows. But she kind of smiled, and she then began to talk about how he did gardening and what he used it for. She changed the subject, essentially. And then she kind of went all the way around. She came back, and she said, by the way, I just wanted to kind of disagree with you about that, and kind of told him a few things why, and thought that maybe that was a limited way of understanding things, that you couldn't say that about everyone, and even that kind of a statement sounds like you're just sort of throwing out something that you're more anxious about. She said, I'm just spitballing, or I'm just guessing, but maybe that's something that you're anxious about. She said, you know, I would say it's because I have a granddaughter who's mixed race, who's part Latino and part Irish. But that's not really why I'm saying this, because I'm really saying I think there must be something else going on, because I don't think you really think that way. And then he kind of packed up, and then he was saying, like, no, you know, I really don't think that way. I mean, I've just sort of, you know, I guess I was just spouting off, you know. I mean, there's a lot of really stupid white people out there, you know. And then Linda was going like, all right, so it's not really racism. You just are mad about something. You know, you're just angry, and you don't know how to channel that and find a way towards healing. You know, so she talked a little bit further, and towards the end, he actually kind of apologized. Now, he may not have changed his mind. He may not have changed how he's going to respond the next time he gets to say something kind of racist or kind of negative or bitter or bigoted or whatever, you know, or angry. But what he does know is that he's been stopped enough to be able to think about it. And he was able to sort of soften his approach without feeling judged by it. And that's what we have to do. Part of our practice has to be this way of going like, you know what I don't think you see is we're connected. I don't think you realize how connected we are. I don't think you see how much we are literally grounded in the same root and grounding of love that created all this stuff that we're a part of. I don't think you see that. I mean, we could try that, but I don't think that would get there, because people are oriented towards from their point of biology, right? From their limbic system as opposed to the frontal cortex. So that's where we are, I think. So I want to leave this last thought with you. Again, that question I asked at the beginning. Let's see if I can ask it here. Do we really, and this is a question you need to ask yourself this week as we think about big mind, small-minded times, because that's where we're going for the next few weeks. Do we really believe deeply, truly, at our heart, at our gut, at our perceptive transcendence of what we see around us, that in fact we are interconnected at all levels, that we are a part of the mystery of life? It's not about us, it's about this bigger reality, and that's our practice. Do we really believe that? Secondly, if we really believe that, do we believe that God is out there going to do something about it? Because I got in another great engagement where one woman said, all we need is Jesus. If the country just had more Jesus. My friend had responded by saying, I'm not going to go there. We talked politics. That was deep enough. I'm going to leave it at that. I jumped in and said, let's talk about it. And it was interesting because it went round and round and round for a while. But the question becomes, do we think it's Jesus or God out there? Or do we think it's all about us? Or is it the same question? Right? Are we just asking the same question, but we just haven't gotten there yet? So that's kind of what we're doing in the next few weeks. Going to explore that practice, and I hope you'll be a part of that. But for now, what you can do is you can just kind of go off this week and see how many times you find yourself responding a little more vitriol, or a little more anxiously, a little more, I want to just kind of be with my friends, or even better, I want to chime in on some of that parody that's going on, some of that ridicule that's going on. I want to jump in on that. Because, my friends, all that does is reinforce the same neurological network that the other folks are dealing with to the extreme. We have to train ourselves to be emissaries of this bigger picture of reality, because we will never get there as a species if we're not encouraging every one of us to begin thinking in that way. Big mind as opposed to small mind. So in just a minute, we're going to go back to the back. Band's going to sing a quick song. We're going to go back to the back. We're going to have what's our form of communion. We have a little broken bread. We have sourdough. We have some Italian bread. Unfortunately, I forgot the gluten-free, so if that's an issue, I'm sorry. We have some great olive oil. It's the global blend of olive oil back there. We have some grape juice or water. What we encourage you is to just go back, because folks, you can serve each other. Folks will serve you. Just mill around for a little bit for about 5 minutes. We're going to eat. We're going to visit. And the music will be playing. The band, you guys aren't going to be playing. You guys are going to come down and join us. Yeah, he's going to play some music all over the speakers. Yeah. So after you sing, come on and join us, okay? So I hope you'll stick around for that, and then we'll close with one final thought and the band rocking us out. All right.
Is with us. Come, Spirit,
Come and fill our soul. We hunger now to be made whole. We bring our joys and fears. Oh, touch us now and hold us near. Come, Spirit, come, be with us here, both in our laughter and our tears. Transform us now and give release. Fill us with love and inward peace. So we have that tradition where Jesus broke bread, but I loved that tradition from the Gospel of John, written almost 100 years after Jesus, which really spoke about how he washed one another's feet. He washed others' feet, and he said, just remember, I'm showing you something here. He said, you saw what I did. By that point, the community that was following Jesus was really thinking more about what it meant to be like Jesus in the world, as opposed to have sort of more of an idea about indoctrination and how you're supposed to believe. It was really more about this practice. So we've started doing this practice of where we just take bread together, we dip. Oh, Jesus would not want you to double dip, by the way. So dip once, take your bread, and move into a conversation with somebody for a minute, okay? And maybe offer a blessing, maybe offer a positive moment of insight, maybe offer something fun you saw, or just say hello to one another as we take bread together, all right? I invite you, we're going to go on either side of the table. We'll just kind of make your way around the table and then move on so that other folks can go there. You can come sit down or you can stand around and talk, and then we'll finish up with the band, all right? Xavier, go ahead and just play some music. We can stand. Yeah.
We're all hoping, we're all hopeless, we're all thorns and we're all roses. We're all looking down our noses at ourselves. We're all flawed and we're all perfect. We're all lost and we're all hurting and just searching for somebody to love. We're all liars, we're all legends, we're all tens that want 11s. We're all trying to get to heaven, but not today. We're all happy, we're all hating, we're all patiently impatient and just waiting for somebody to love. We're all good, but we ain't angels. We all sin, but we ain't devils. We're all pots and we're all kettles. We can't see it in ourselves. We're all living till we're dying. We ain't cool, but man, we're trying. Just thinking we'll be fixed by someone else. We all wrangle with religion. We all talk, but we don't listen. We're all starving for attention, then we run. We're all paper, we're all scissors. We're all fighting with our mirrors. Scared we'll never find somebody to love. We're all good, but we ain't angels. We all sin, but we ain't devils. We're all pots and we're all kettles. We can't see it in ourselves. We're all living till we're dying. We ain't cool, man, we're trying. Just thinking we'll be fixed by someone else. Just trying to hold it all together. We all wish our best was better, and we're hoping that forever's really real. Miss a time to grab a nickel, overcomplicate the simple. We're all little kids just looking for love. Yeah, don't we all just want somebody to love?
Into that. Yep. All right, people. Let's stand. We'll have our benediction. It's just me up here in front of the camera. Most y'all back in the back. So isn't that the truth? We're all just kids looking for someone to love. We all want to belong. And that's what we got to practice. That's how we got to see one another, even in those difficult places. You know, like, what are we missing here? What are you missing here? What maybe I'm forgetting? So, our time has ended. Our task has come to an end. Things are being upended, but there's stuff in the world that needs to be mended. And so we go in pieces. And as we go, we find the world starts to unravel, but we remind them that we all travel this path together. And so we find ways to clear the confusion, to dispel the illusion, even if it means we have to do a little bit of intrusion. We remind one another that we are all pieces of the same whole, the same goodness that grounds us all. So, go in pieces. Hope to see you next week.